In this episode, we will explore Augustine's Amillennialism. This is based on his book, his masterpiece, The City of God, published in 426 AD. And he interpreted Revelation 20 based on John 5:25, which says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, an hour is coming and is now here." So referring to this present time, when the dead, meaning the spiritually dead, will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who will hear it will be spiritually alive. That's how he interpreted Revelation 20 based on John 5:25. The first resurrection, according to Augustine, is that transition from death to life, and it is made in the present time. According to him, those who partake in it shall not come into damnation, which is called the second death, into the lake of fire. And with regards to the 1,000 years mentioned in Revelation 20, he said that is the part that is yet to expire before the end of the world. Not 1,000 years John used, he said, as an equivalent for the whole duration of this world, employing the number of perfection to mark the fullness of time. And with regards to Satan bound, locked, and sealed in the abyss in Revelation 20 verse 4, he interpreted that passage with the strongman parable in Mark 3:27. So according to Augustine, the goods in that parable are the believers, and that the nations in Revelation 20 verse 4 are those nations that belong to Christ. By the way, he also used the parable of wheat and tares to explain the millennial kingdom. And he asked, how long will this be? Will he be bound? According to Augustine, he will be bound till the end of the world, and he will be loosed. For Augustine, therefore, the binding of Satan means none of the regenerated elect now in the church, in the millennial kingdom, will be seduced to eternal damnation. Okay? As for the thrones in Revelation 20, Augustine says that these are the saints sitting in judgment. It does not refer to the last judgment, he says, but to now. And the seats of the rulers, and to the rulers themselves by whom the church is now governed. He based that also in 1 Corinthians 5:12, which says, "What have I to do with judging them that are without? Do not ye judge them that are within?" He also interpreted it as the binding and loosing, or the keys Christ gave to the church in Matthew 16:19 and Matthew 18:18. Also, based on Colossians 3 verse 1 to 2, he says that even now his saints reign with him, and that the church even now is the kingdom of Christ and the kingdom of heaven. These are the wheat, he said, rather than the tares in the parable of the same name. Now, with regards to those who have not worshipped the beast nor his image, nor have received his inscription on their forehead or on their hand, according to Augustine, those are both the living and the dead. So, in other words, the wheat in that parable are all the elect in the church, both the regenerated living and the departed believers. The tares, according to him, which are to be gathered at the end or at the end of the world and gathered out of the kingdom, the church, are the community of hypocrites and unbelievers, both living and the dead. Now, the beast is, according to him, the ungodly city itself, and the community of unbelievers who set in opposition to the faithful people and the city of God. So that's how he interpreted the beast of Revelation 13. And the image of the beast are the Christian hypocrites. He said, to wit, in those men who profess to believe but live as unbeliever, for they pretend to be what they are not, and are called Christians, not from true likeness, but from a deceitful image. Now, the final persecution by the Antichrist, according to Augustine, right, so will last at the end, before the end of the world, for 3 years and 6 months. So, in other words, the millennial kingdom is coexisting with the persecution that is ongoing. So while the persecution is ongoing, the saints, since Satan is bound, he can persecute, but he cannot deceive the elect. So nearing the end of that 1,000 years, 3.5 years is to be subtracted from that, and that's when Satan will be unbound to conduct the final persecution, and he will deceive the tares, the living hypocrites and the unbelievers. And it's going to last for 3.5 years. That's also how he interpreted the Gog and Magog in Revelation. So, according to him, he said that both parties have their 1,000 years. Okay, both the wheat and tares, the millennial kingdom and Satan being bound, both of them will have their 1,000 years. In other words, their complete time, not literally 1,000, but complete time. Yet, each with different actual duration, appropriate to itself. According to Augustine, the kingdom of saints being longer. So this is longer. And the imprisonment of the devil is shorter. Or at least that, as 3 years and 6 months is a very short time. It is not reckoned as either deducted from the whole time of Satan's imprisonment, or as added to the whole duration of the reign of the saints. That's what he said. And then shall the wicked be revealed. That passage in 2 Thessalonians, according to Augustine, is never doubted to refer to Antichrist, to the Antichrist. And according to him, this is what Daniel predicted regarding the persecution of the Antichrist, the judgment of God, and the kingdom of the saints. Let me quote him again. For it is patent from the context that the time, times, and half a time means a year and 2 years and half a year. That is to say, 3 years and a half. Sometimes in scripture, the same thing is indicated by months. For though the word time seems to be used here in the Latin indefinitely, that is only because the Latins have no dual, as the Greek has, or as the Greeks have, and as the Hebrews also are said to have. Times, therefore, is used for 2 times. Okay? And then, at the second coming, he said, that which there is no doubt, that Christ will not come to judge the quick and the dead unless the Antichrist, his adversary here, first come to seduce those who are dead in soul, meaning the tares, although their seduction is a result of God's secret judgment already past. These words of the apostle in the 2 Thessalonians most distinctly proclaim the future resurrection of the dead, when the Lord Christ shall come to judge the quick and the dead. He also said that we believe that the saints who shall not be found alive at Christ's coming shall be caught up to meet him, shall in that same ascent pass from mortal to immortal bodies. So he also believed that when Christ comes, those who are alive will be raptured, not as a secret rapture or not as a pre-tribulational rapture, but post-tribulational rapture. So this rapture will happen in the second coming, and those who are alive will quickly die and become alive or quickly be resurrected. And then after that, he interpreted the great white throne judgment after the harvest based on the wheat and tares parable. That's the end of the world. After the end of the world will come the great white throne judgment depicted in the vision of John in Revelation. When the judgment is finished, he said, this heaven and earth, the present earth, the first heaven and first earth, shall cease to be, and there will be a new heaven and a new earth. According to him, this world shall pass away by transmutation, not by absolute destruction. So there you have it, brothers and sisters, the amillennial view of Saint Augustine based on his published work, The City of God.